Welcome to the HU Move Makers podcast, where we highlight folks that are blazing the trail and making moves in Howard culture. Welcome to the HU Move Maker podcast, where we highlight influential people in Howard culture that are trailblazing and making moves. Today, we got a very, very special guest. One of the first cats I met when I stepped on Howard's campus back in '99. Married for 10 years to a wife, Nneka. They got three kids. Vanguard Group, head of foundational services and operations. So if you need a job at Vanguard, holla at Armond. He can make things happen. Youth minister at Christian Faith Fellowship. So if you need that anointing, holla at Armond again. Author of 2 books, Rededication, a story of sex, repentance, and restoration. The 5 things every teen needs to know about sex. Founder of the Kingdom Workshops LLC, a faith-based personal development company. Chemical engineering, Howard University, class of 2003. Man, he graduated on time from engineering. That must have been tough. Also has his MBA from Temple in financial management. Without further ado, I want to welcome to the show Armond E, Mosley, all the way from Huntsville. Welcome to the show.
Good. What's good, Josh? What's up, man?
Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Man, we got a lot to unpackage, man. We got a brother that's strong in his faith, devout husband, career success, very active at Howard, all the way from Huntsville. How does a drum major from Huntsville get to Howard, man? What made you go to Howard? Because I would imagine being from Huntsville, man, you could have went to A&T, Florida A&M, Grambling, but you wanted to kick it up north.
Shout out to Alabama A&M.
Howard, man. Who? A&M?
Yeah, shout out to Alabama A&M in Huntsville, right? So, or normal Alabama, but yeah, man. Look, I'm a 80s baby. Grew up on the Cosby Show, so Cosby Show, different world, definitely had an influence on me. So I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU at an early age, and I was at my high school, and there was 2 people. So one guy was named Jaron Redrick, and then the woman, her name was Chambry Malone. And so Jaron was in the band. So I was in the band. You mentioned drum major. So Jaron was in the band. He went to Howard. I knew he went off to Howard, but I hadn't seen or heard from him much after he left. He was about 3 years older than me. But Chambry was 1 year older. And so in her freshman year, she came back to our high school, and she was talking about the Howard experience. And she brought some applications back with her. And I was sold, man. I was like, yo, where do I sign up? And went to my guidance counselor, talked to her about it. And then, I signed the agreement kind of sight unseen. So I had accepted the offer and already planned to go to Howard without ever stepping foot on campus, ever going to DC. And so, it was a little bit of a risk, if you will, but I knew, that the Black experience was something that I really wanted. And to your point, being from the South and knowing the number of HBCUs there, I was like, you know what? College is a good opportunity to try something different. So if I go up on the East Coast and I don't like it, I can always come back home and stay in the South for the rest of my life. But what happens if I go on the East Coast and I love it? And then now I got a whole new life and experiences that I never would have gotten if I'd have gone to school in the South. And so I wanted to kind of spread my wings a little bit. And so that's what made me go to Howard.
That's interesting, man. So just off the strength of your homegirl, you made a life decision just off the strength of that, but this is before, I don't want to say before internet, but kind of before internet. So we really didn't have that ability to just look up how Howard was. So you did have to kind of take the word of people you trusted. Cause I did the same thing with Megan. She was just talking about her sister went there. So I was like, I got to see what it's like for myself. So culturally, man, I remember you got to Howard, man, you had gold glasses, man. You had gold chains on, gold rings. I mean, culturally, what was it like making that adjustment from Huntsville? Cause when we think Huntsville, man, when we think of Alabama, we just think of every worst racist movie that ever came out in the world, as a high school kid. You're not thinking about NASA. you thinking about a time to kill. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what was it like coming from Huntsville and then going to getting to Howard, man? Like that first, immersion, if you will say.
Yeah, man. Look, Huntsville is, I guess for people who are not from Alabama, it may think that all Alabama is country, right? But Alabama has cities too. Newsflash, and Huntsville is one of the bigger cities in Alabama, and so it's not. It doesn't have like the big public transportation, so no metros, no. I mean, it has bus system, but people don't use it. You're driving everywhere. But it's not as sheltered as one might think. And so, when I got to Howard, man, I think it was a culture shock, but a positive one because I had grown up around, been in the South, but my parents were from Alabama, so everything I had known was kind of deeply rooted in the South. And when I got on the East Coast, man, it was just good to see just different people, different Black folks who are all Black but have very different cultures, man. And so I really enjoyed that experience. And me personally, man, I'm pretty strong in who I am. So and like it didn't bother me that, hey, look, I'm the guy from the South and I act very different or sound very different to other people because I can appreciate my heritage and also appreciate others. And so it was fun, man. And then you like you said, you and I met first day, right? We went to the pinning ceremony together, man. And you from Chicago. I never been to the Chi at that point in my life, and but we everybody. I mean, again, the majority of folks on campus, you relate to that Black experience, man. So whether you're from Alabama, Chicago, Georgia, wherever, whatever city or state, that Black experience is something that's unifying. And so it was real cool. So it wasn't that big of an adjustment, to be honest. And I was the only child, so I had to grow up learning how to make friends pretty quickly.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. So being that you picked engineering as a major, I mean, what was the reason behind that? I mean, I know that NASA is big and the headquarters in Huntsville, right?
Yeah.
Did that have something to do with
they have
it?
a big facility. Yeah. Nah, man. So when I went to Howard, actually, man, I was a chemistry pre-med major. And so before I got there, I was watching back in the day they used to have the real ER show on TV, and like you could see them doing real surgeries and all that stuff. I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. And somebody died on the table and they showed like them flatlining on TV. And I was like, you know what? Like I don't want that kind of responsibility on a
Okay.
day-to-day basis. And so but I would already declare my major. So I got there, I'm chemistry pre-med. And I was like, shoot, what am I going to do? It's like freshman year, a month in. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I got to make a move. And so I forget who I talked to, man, but it was either some students of faculty. It escapes me now, but basically they was like, look, if you like science and you like math, engineering is the way to go. And it's like, well, you're already a chemistry major, so you got those classes, so you might as well do chemical engineering. So it's kind of like deductive reasoning. They're like, all right, well, I do like math, I like chemistry. And then when I found out what chemical engineers do, where they make so many things that are used in our society, I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, it can't be that bad. And they make good money. So what's the downside risk of that?
Interesting, man. I was a pre-med major too. I was biology when I got to Howard. I didn't take not one biology class while I was there. And I didn't need to get no advice. I knew looking at the scheme, it was not for me. So you get to Howard, man. I mean, are you on scholarship when you get to Howard?
Yeah, I was on tuition scholarship.
Tuition, man. So you got to be smart to get money from Howard, bro. So coming out of school, you was focused, man. You was focused coming out. When you get to Howard as a freshman, I mean, was it intimidating at all, or it was easy for you when you got there?
Nah, it was definitely intimidating, man. Because I mean, it's mad smart cats. And Howard, like you going from being a big fish in a small pond, relatively speaking, right? So to going on campus with thousands of other people who are also big fish in their pond. Matter of fact, they might have been bigger fish. And so you like, dang, like those cats. Remember cat Ernest? You like, whoa, these cats
Yeah,
are super smart. Like,
yeah, he was. That dude was
Byron,
crazy.
like these cats was sharp, man. So like, Jaha, like it was so many people. So I'm like a little bit insecure. I'm like, man, like my little, Huntsville education, is it going to stand up to these cats. And so yeah, I definitely was intimidated, man. Like it wasn't but it was intimidating, but also beautiful to see,
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, man, like it's a lot of smart Black people out there, and they're not nerd balls, you know, they cool cats, like they have fun, but they get busy, and that was something that was really cool to see.
Yeah, facts, man. It was some cats that was smart, and they didn't really want to let you know. Them kids was just they was just smart. You know, they'll pop
Yep.
up like, you know, straight A's or just getting internships and just killing it, man. So what about when you got to Howard? Were you, in terms of organizations, what are some of like the organizations that, if you had to think back, like, okay, these are the ones that I'm putting on a resume?
You know, Campus Pal. I mean, you know, it's like that's them the first people you meet when you first get there. So they definitely made an impression on me. You know, UGSA and HUSA, definitely, like just from this kind of organizational politics, leadership. Like I was, you know, I always had like leadership aspirations, so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get involved with them. And then Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I think, you know, it's funny because my dad's a Kappa, so when I got to Howard, I'm looking for the Kappas, but the Kappas weren't on campus for a number of years. And you know, so that was a big decision, individual
So
decision I had to make
so does
along
it
the
go
way.
another way if so you saying if the Kappas are on campus, are we talking about Armond the Noop right now?
Hey, look, man, you know, look, then keeping it 100, you know, legacy, man. My dad, that's all I knew growing up. Like, that's all I saw day one. You know, that's probably how it plays out. You know, now some people from a very early age, you know, they link onto the different fraternities for various reasons, right? And so some of it's tied into the legacy and heritage of the organizations. And while I always knew about Alphas and have a high respect for them, you know, my dad's a Kappa, so that's like that's my role model, man. You know, I would have loved to have been able to grip him up, you know, with the Kappa shake, but they weren't there. And I'm like, yo, the cats who are really making an impression on me and really getting busy. And I also felt like I'm more closely aligned to what they were about. You know, again, it's theoretical until you land on campus, right? Like I can see the Kappas from when I was growing up with my dad, but when you get on your own college campus and your own college experience, you got to make a choice. And so we had a tough conversation, man. You know, it wasn't, he was upset, but he got
So
over it.
your pops was salty when you said you was gonna be a Kappa.
No, I mean Alpha,
I
but
mean, Alpha, my bad. He was salty when you said you was gonna be an
nah, you
Alpha.
know, look, man, I actually kept it from him, man. I was online, you know, I went through like I was about done. And I called him like, yo, like, I just crossed. He was like, cross what? I was like, like, yeah, because he wasn't having it, man. Because I kind of broached the topic with him beforehand. I could tell he was real, like, dismissive.
Oh
So I
man.
was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go do this on my own, and I let him know on the back end. But when it was over, man, he was proud of me. And then, you know, he's met my
Oh
line brothers,
man. So
man.
with little Armand, man, what if he become a Kappa? What you gonna do, man?
Hey, look, I can't have no beef, man. Like, I mean, I would love for him to be an alpha, man, but at the same time, from my own personal experience, I want him to do what it is that's best for him and best meets who he is as a person.
Sounds good. It sounds good.
Yeah.
So if he comes back at IOTA, we gonna be, what's up, boy?
Well, that's a
How are
different
you,
story.
man?
Not that's a different
No,
story. Not.
I'm just playing, man. So Alpha, Campus Pals, UGSA. So you pretty involved on campus. It's funny how when you join these organizations and you at Howard, you learn that everything got some type of process to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything, man. Whereas campus, it could be, man, the choir boys of America. Like you're gonna learn some history.
Student ambassadors.
You're gonna learn something about something from somebody.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? It might be a day, it might be a week-long process. What was that like being introduced to that? You know, because we can't do pals together, and obviously pals is not Greek, but you know what I mean? Just being having to be humble, you know, by your peers and having to learn history, you know, at that time. What was going through your brain?
You know, man, it's interesting. I mean, I think you know, you quickly get indoctrinated into Black
Quickly.
college culture, right? You like, yo,
It's
like,
like that.
you're like, whoa, like I thought this was like the study group. We doing that for study groups? Like,
Yeah.
dang. Um, I mean, you know, at times you thought it was overkill, man. But at the same time, you know, it built camaraderie with the people you were with. I think because I knew I had, you know, Greek letter organization aspirations, I was a little bit salty because I'm like, man, I'm doing all this and I'm not anywhere closer to my ultimate objective, you know. So but in the end, man, it's all fun and games. You laugh about it. It builds some experience that you just never forget, man. And I wouldn't. It's funny, like looking back, I wouldn't trade any of it.
Yeah.
But going through it, it's frustrating. But I also think it's times at work, man, and even now in my career, throughout my career, like I feel like you get those tough spots at work. You get people tripping. You get a frustrated customer, a bad employee that you got to keep working with, a peer. You're like, man, that was somebody else on my line. Or that was like my
Right.
big brother. Like I've dealt with people like this, and I've had to eat crow, humble myself, even when I think somebody's tripping, because I got a goal to achieve. And so, at work, if your boss is tripping, they a clown, you can't just wild out. I mean, you can, but you get fired. So you got to be like, all right, how do I play this forward? So I think there's some lessons that you learn regardless, and it makes you a better person in the end.
Yeah, it's funny how those skills transfer over if you know what I mean. But at the time, you just thinking like, yo, this is crazy. But you're so impressionable when you're 17 and 18. You just going with
Yeah,
it, and then years later, who knew that the importance of learning to lift every voice and sing, or learning
right.
the significance of all the buildings that are on
Yep.
campus, or learning all of those poems you probably had to learn when you was becoming an alpha, like how all of that stuff kind of pans out. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
you say you're UGSA, so that's student government, right?
Yeah. Yep. So undergraduate student assembly.
Damn,
Yep.
so you had one of them joints where you was getting paid.
Yeah, man, it was a hustle. It was a
Cass
good.
Cass is out here hustling, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was a great hustle.
ain't nobody put me on to none of that. Cass was
Nah, it
out
was a
here
good look.
just of course it was. Of course it was, man. Of course, man. I
But you
mean,
think, but it's funny though. But like again, back to your point about translating experiences, man. Like I've done a number of events, both personally and professionally, since leaving Howard, and having to put on, Springfest, events like that, going through all the logistics, the contracts, the negotiations. Those things are transferable, man. And so it's kind of like it's crazy. You said like as a 19, 20-year-old kid, you put on these events for thousands of students. Well, what's doing that at work for your company? You know what I'm saying? Like, and you do something at work, and people are like, man, that was a phenomenal event. Like, how'd you think that up? And you're like, well, that's because the framework is kind of what we did at Howard when we had Black History Month,
right.
programs and stuff like that. So that stuff definitely translates, man. I think it's made a number of things a lot easier later on.
When you so a lot of people, man, when they come to Howard, specifically black colleges, your frame of reference for joining organizations a lot of times, like you said, a different world, or you might or do the right thing. Well, not do the right thing, but
School days.
school days.
Yeah.
So I remember one of the biggest things was like, okay, when you're a freshman, you like, man, okay, I want to be in this, do I want to be in this organization? Like I'm talking about Pledge and Greek, but it's like like a huge gray area. You know what I'm saying about how you go about meeting people? Because the classic answer is, "Oh, do your research." You know what I'm saying? That's the classic answer. Then the other answer is, man, go introduce yourself. Then the response, hey, don't tell them you want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
How
Yep.
did you navigate that? Like, what do you think? Why do you think you were so fortunate to be a part of the organization? Because a lot of guys want to be in it, especially women, especially they want to get down, but it's that gray area where people can get taken advantage of, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they come from a family and they kind of know like what to do. What do you
Yeah.
think separated you?
It's a good question, man. So like early on, like I had connected with a couple of alphas pretty closely, right? And so like I considered them like, against mentors in that capacity from a school standpoint. So they were either sophomores or juniors, and people I trusted. And so when I finally was able to identify that alpha was the way I wanted to go and pursue that path, I was able to talk to them straight up about it. I didn't have to worry about the unsaid things. I'm like, all right, look, so if I want to do this, like what's the real and what's not? Like, I ain't look, and I know I can't have this conversation with you every day, but like if you just give me like just a quick template, all right, I'm good. I got the rest from here. And that's kind of how it was. Like, I was like, all right, look, man, if you're serious, look, I'm gonna give you some tips. And then that's it. Like after this, like our relationship shifts, and that's the dynamic that's interesting because once you express interest and start to talk to cats, now like people who you were cool with, it's kind of like a different dynamic. It's like, oh, like, well, we cool, but now you're trying to get in my fraternity. So now I got to learn a little bit more about you. Like, you was a cool cat over there, but now, like, let me see what your character is and who you are as a person and what are your aspirations and how can you add value to our organization. So I would say, man, those people who are already in, who I trusted and who I think had a respect for me, they were willing to kind of pull back the veil and share with me some of the different things that would allow me to navigate that, to your point, gray and ambiguous path.
When you crossed, like when you finally crossed, what was that moment like? Do you remember it?
Yeah, man. Elation, man. Elation, dude. Like, it was just such a it was a long, arduous journey, man, and you just you gained a lot of respect for people along the way, man. And so, when we were finally able to grip each other up, grip the brothers up, man, it was just a feeling of accomplishment, man. I'd probably say one of the, something that you had been working for so long, and so it's like a bit, like, very gratifying.
What what do you think is like the most valuable thing that you've learned from being online that kind of translates to just your development?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I think you're gonna you have moments and experiences where you exceed your own expectations of yourself or your own what you thought was possible, right? And so, like, whether it be staying up late, just how long you can go and how long you can go and still stay lucid, like that's something that you think like, oh yeah, it sounds cool, but until you get forced to do it, you're like, wow, that's crazy. And then then you realize in the real world, whether it be parenting or a work project, like there's times where you might not get good sleep, because you got a lot going on and you still are expected to be functional the next day. Nobody's walking in like, oh, you only got 3 hours of sleep last night. Oh, okay, don't worry about it. You know what? We'll give you another day to get ready. Like, that never happens. You know what I'm saying? And so I think just knowing those, that you can do certain things. And then also, man, just I would say people leadership, man. I kind of touched on this earlier, but again, you got your line brothers, man. Y'all grow really close, and each person is their own person. They have their own personalities. They're all very different, and you're gonna have debates and tension and fights and arguments and disagreements, but y'all still brothers. And so it's like, how do you function in dysfunction? And I think, again, at work, in your personal life, like, everything's not gonna always be sweet. Everybody's not gonna love you, like, for everything you. Or I'm not gonna say everybody's not gonna always love you, but everybody's not gonna love everything you do. And
Mm-hmm.
so when people don't love what you do, and you're like, but this is who I am. How do you navigate that? And so I think because those, you don't pick your line brothers, right? Like, that just kind of shapes itself, and then you look up like, okay, here are the 8 other guys that I got to get to know. And, like, it's like, in the absence of the fraternity, would we ever be friends? And more times than not, I think most people say probably not, because you're in different circles, got different interests.
How did things change or open up for you once you had your life back, so to say, and a
Well, it's
newfound
funny, man.
responsibility?
It's funny, like, I always laugh because my grades were better online than when I got off. Like it's like when I got off, to your point, you feel like you're out of jail, man. So it's like, yo, where's the party at? Like, where we kicking it tonight? And so you just trying to just enjoy yourself, because you had been isolated from society for so long, for a period of time where you were really trying to focus on learning about the organization, learning about the brothers, and doing that piece. And so it was kind of like surreal, but I think it's interesting. Like, I think when you ask that question, like, hey, when you're done, did people change and react to you differently? For me personally, like, I don't know that I ever felt like that. I had that experience. Um, they're just, if I think back, I don't have enough examples of where, like, oh, because I was an alpha, this happened, or because I had just crossed, this happened. But I had plenty of people, line brothers, and observed it happen for others. And I guess it just depends on the individual. But I think you get a little cocky, though.
So you
So I
was
definitely.
already popping. That's what you
Nah,
saying.
I'm like, I ain't saying that. No.
You said they
I'm not saying
needed
that.
you. I hear you. Hey,
Nah,
everybody, they needed
nah.
him.
You silly.
Let me edit
You
this the
silly.
way I want to edit it.
But no, but I mean, but for real, like, I feel like um, it didn't. I guess I feel like I had a decent profile, and I don't know that the fraternity like raised it to this level where, like, all of a sudden there's this experience where, like, wow, like, I just walk into a room and people gravitate to me. Like it wasn't magical like that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And but at the
Because
same
I mean,
time,
you had stuff under you had some feathers in your cap already. I mean, you was a pal, student government, Phi Sigma Pi. So it wasn't like Alpha was like the only thing you had going on. You know what I mean? So your reputation probably preceded you anyway.
yeah, but I'm sure, like, I think again personally, like if I'd have further indulged in that experience, I'm sure I could have exploited it, to a greater degree. But I always wrestled with, the carnal side and the spiritual side. So like that was also like something that kind of probably held me back from indulging more than maybe I would have. And not to say that I didn't indulge. Like, I'm not sitting there trying to say I was a saint either. But I think I didn't probably do it as much as I may have had I not had some type of a barometer around my own behavior.
Man, so doors did open up. That devil on the shoulder got bigger. Like,
Oh
yo,
yeah,
you could do this now if you want, and you'll probably get away with it. So, so I guess you probably saw things in slow motion. So a lot of times when I say slow motion, I mean, like, when I look at athletes like a Michael Jordan, I'm like, man, how's he consistently doing the same move over? Like, he has to see things in slow motion to be able to maneuver like that. So that's dope, man. I mean, but while you're doing all of these activities, man, you're also getting internships, right? The GPA
yeah.
is nice. What are some other things that you're doing in terms of like to make sure that you're well rounded, not just socially and academically, but you're building that resume up so that when you graduate, you got something lined up.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, internships, man. Getting one after sophomore year, after junior year, just grinding, man. Going to career fairs, networking, interviewing. Just putting yourself out there to really get the best opportunity. So, because by the time I got after my freshman year, like I was like, yo, I'm sold on the East Coast. Like I'm good. Like I'm not trying to go
Oh,
back to
really?
Alabama right now. Yeah, like I was like, I'm good. Like I can stay on the East Coast now. And so, but also I was open to other things. So I knew if I wasn't intentional, I'll mess around and get to the end of the road, and then I won't have a job, and I'll have to go back home. And so I was kind of destined to not have that be my reality. And so, just that's a good thing about Howard too. You got a number of companies coming on campus interviewing, so you do the interviews, go through that. Got an internship at Kraft my sophomore year. Got an internship at Merck my junior year, and then got an offer from Merck. I think probably by like September of my senior year. So like I knew in September of my senior year that I was going to work for Merck in Pennsylvania. So the whole senior year is like, this is just formality now. Like I already got my offer, I know how much I'm gonna make. I'm just gonna get through these credits and then get it done.
Damn, so that's a load off right there, knowing you got something lined up. That's got to take a lot of pressure off, man, because I think I ain't get no job till like 3 months after I graduated.
Mm.
That shit was stressful. I was going interview after interview. I'm in the interview like, yo, look, y'all gonna hire me or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't got to go through all of this. But yeah, that's dope. What do you think you did that made them want to offer you a internship, a year before you even start?
It's funny, man. So when I was interning at Kraft, I met this guy named Thomas, and Sharp brother. He went to Michigan, University of Michigan, and like we were like the only two black interns, I believe, or at least a black male. Maybe there was like one other guy. But like every time they would have like, when you intern, they always expose you to senior leaders. So they're gonna bring a bunch of people around, let you just ask questions, panels and stuff like that. And this cat was sharp. Like, always every time they ask these really intelligent, just great questions. And so I kind of
He
modeled
was an
my
intern. He was an intern too.
yeah, he was an intern too. Yep.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I'm a competitive cat, so I'm like, oh man, I can't just keep getting shined on. Like I gotta start asking some questions too. So I like to say I learned a lot from him. And so, in like any room that we would be in, like you wouldn't leave that room and not know Armond Mosley, and like because I'm gonna ask a really intelligent question, try and then because I'm really curious, but also I want to make sure I make an impression because I don't want to take for granted these senior leaders in this room. And so when I went to Merck that following year, same thing, and so when you're in these internships, you get to present and things like that. And I just took every opportunity, man, when I was in front of senior leaders to seize it, man, just try to really show everything I had, all the training from Howard, and just try to be the best I could be, man. And so, and I think that people skills thing comes into play too. So when you're on the internship, really relating well with all my coworkers, and just being like a really personable person. So, you know, you gotta pass that, I want to have a beer with this guy question. So once people kind of get past that, then it's like, and he can do his job. Oh yeah, okay, let's give him a job. You know, it's like he's cool and he can actually get work done. And so, you know, I think that was a big reason why.
So that's dope, and I think that's a lot. I think those soft skills, you know, are definitely important. But I mean, do you, in your opinion, do you think that that's something that you were born with, or do you think that that was something that was taught to you? Like, did somebody tell you, like, hey, you need to stick out and ask these questions, or was it just a part of you, like, oh man, this dude's getting too much notice, so I need to ask about their diversity. you know,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. Well, it's funny, man. Like, it's two things. So one, my dad is a people person. So I think I had it modeled to me, right? Like, he's just a really social person. So, but I didn't recognize that I learned that from him until much later in life. Um, and then we talked about the relatability of things you do in college and those organizations, right? You think about how do you know, Campus Pals is like 40, 50 people go out and they pick 12, 13, 15, 20. Like, how'd you get picked for that? You know, what did you do in the interview process for Pals that made you stand out, that they chose you? What did you do in the process for Alpha that made them select you? What did you do in the process for Phi Sig? And so, like, you know, I had been, in my life, I had gotten these reps of being one among many and having to stand out in order to be successful. And so you kind of take that and process it forward. It's like, well, that's the same thing at work. Like, you one among many, everybody trying to get the same goal. What is it that you're going to do to stand out? And so as you kind of go through it, you start learning more and more what things work well for you and what things don't.
So you graduate Howard, man. Merck, is that right?
Yep.
Merck, cashing out. You making big money now. You at Merck. Was it any type of culture shock at all? I know you had like the competitive advantage, but I mean, you go from engineering class at Howard, it's probably a lot of Caribbean and African students.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now you go to Merck. What was it? Culture shock? What was it like going from Howard to that type of experience?
You know, again, man, you know, I'm just going to tie it back to, like, so my elementary school was 99.9% Black. My middle school was probably 60%, 70% white, 30% Black. And then my high school was probably 99.99% Black. So in my life, I had kind of gone through these culture shocks of, like, elementary to middle, like, whoa, it's a lot of white people. And then when I got to middle school was very, very different, man. Like, I had to start realizing the dynamics of race a little bit differently. And then going back to high school was, like, fundamentally different. And so, you know, I think I credit my middle school experience of being more comfortable with, like, predominantly white environments. So, you know, the biggest culture shock was just, you know, and I don't know if you felt this, man, but, like, coming out of Howard, man, I tell people all the time, like you're real sure of yourself when you leave Howard, man. Like, you feeling yourself. You're like, yo, I went to Howard, like, I'm that dude. And so when you go into corporate America, you know, it's like, they like, you know, Howard don't mean nothing to a primarily white establishment. They're like, you know, you say, like, oh, I went to, you know, I'm going to interviews or meeting people at Merck, like, you know, like, oh, what college did you go to? I'm like, yeah, I went to Howard University. Like, you said, where? Oh,
Right.
Howard.
They like, oh yeah,
where's that at?
in Atlanta. Yeah, we know about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they like trying to guess. You know, they're like, Harvard? No, not Harvard, Howard. They're like, where's that at again? Oh yeah, DC. And so you realize real quick, like, dang, man, like, they just not exposed, man. And, like, this pride that I have in this university, it doesn't translate to a lot of people. But also, I think, you know, with all the, you know, because it builds you up, you become resilient, man. And so you know that you're enough. You know, and I think that's one of the biggest things leaving Howard. Like, I didn't leave thinking, like, oh yeah, like, I'm not enough to be successful in this world. Like, I left like, yo, I got enough training, I can be successful. The question is, you know, where will it happen? But not like, am I just as good as the person that went to MIT or Carnegie Mellon or so on and so forth? And so, you know, that's a big thing. But yeah, I wasn't super intimidated. Like I said, if anything, I probably was arrogant and had to kind of calibrate that because, you know, feeling myself, and I could make an argument, maybe it was rightfully so, but a lot of white folks don't like that. They like the meek and lowly Black man. You know, you coming in, asking too many questions, got too many answers. They like, oh yeah, nah, this dude. And they, you know, it would come back in feedback like, oh, he's a little arrogant, like a little sure of himself. He's like, dang, like, because I'm confident, that's a bad thing. And so that was a big lesson.
Where does this arrogance come from, man? You're from Huntsville.
Yeah.
You need to be humble. Where does that come from?
I mean, I think,
Is it being valedictorian out of high school?
No, I mean, is it
being drum major out of high school? Because drum major out of high school is like being point guard
in the South. In the South, it is. Yeah. You know what, though, man?
Where it come from, man? Is it having a kappa for a dad?
Look, this why I think it is. I think it was a function of to that point in life, I hadn't lost, quote unquote. I hadn't experienced failure for real yet. So if you're going through life, like you said, you go out for drum major, you get drum major. You become valedictorian at high school. You apply to Howard, you get in. You get a scholarship. Pals, Phi Sig, RC, Alpha, boom, boom, boom. You just stacking up accolades and achievements, and you haven't taken a big L yet.
Wow.
So you're like, oh, like I'm doing this. Like this is all my doing. So, right. Welcome to the Armond show a little bit. And
you're right, man.
But life will get you. Life will humble you real quick.
So let's talk about failure, man. I think we could talk about this topic because you got 3 beautiful kids now, right? And I wouldn't necessarily describe this as failure, but how long were you married before you had your first kids?
5 years.
5 years, man. And I didn't know that 5-year period, it's weird because when you in college, you try not to have no kids. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you doing everything you can not to have no kids, none of that. Then you finally meet the one. God, your parents say, hey, don't get married first. You follow all of that. You know what I'm saying? Then you get married, you find yourself deliberately trying to have kids, man. And for you, it took 5 years before you got that first blessing out. What was it like trying and I guess coming up short, for lack of better words, or your wife not being pregnant? What was going through your mind at that time period?
Man, it was rough, man. And because again, that wasn't the first failure, to your point, or first kind of like thing that didn't work out, but it was definitely a very meaningful one. Mm-hmm. And because you think if you do the right thing, if you're a good person, you think good things happen to you. And generally speaking,
not only that, you devout Christian, man. It's not like you this guy that just goes to church on Easter and Mother's Day.
Well, yeah, like somebody, I don't know about devout, but I would say someone who takes their faith seriously and try to do the right thing, right? And so, I think that's one of the misconceptions about the faith is that, like if I do everything the Bible says, then God owes me. And I think at that moment at that period in life, like I felt like God owed us something. And so, but it's like, nah, that ain't how it works, player. Like, it's you're not in control. And so it was very frustrating, man, because it wasn't anything I could do. Seeing her disappointed, and all the while, man, like I'm super sensitive to this now, whether it be people getting engaged or people having kids. Like I know for every pregnant announcement that goes on social media, somebody's heart is crushed because I live that.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like,
and you know what, man? And that's when we get into this whole conversation about like privilege in its many forms. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because I just thought people had sex, got pregnant, because I really wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't until we was like, all right, we're going to have kids now. And then people would always ask you, when you going to have kids? I'm like, damn, that seems like a rude question. Like,
it is.
Asking me about how much money I make, that seems like a question you probably should ask. But when you be like, when you going to have kids? I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Like we trying, bro. Like, yo, like.
Right, man. Luckily, we was young. So, like, I mean, I'm sure you probably got those questions from your family, but.
Family was cool, man. It wasn't
really?
Family, it was other people. And again, they don't mean harm.
Right.
But you just realize. So like we don't ask people that unless we like super close with them because we know that they would tell us if something was going on. Mm-hmm. But like if it's like random acquaintances, like y'all got married, congratulations. When y'all think about having kids? Like we don't, nah, man.
Yeah, why do people think that's like the next question to ask, like in passing conversation? Who started that question and made it okay?
I don't know, man. But and I think the other piece that you tied to the kind of the failure element is within a marital context, people view kids as success. Like that's like the outcome. So like if you got a marriage and don't have kids, again, by most society standards, especially
Yeah,
Christian
no, that's
standards,
true. Especially when
then
you're
you
young.
then you fail.
Yeah.
You fail.
Yeah.
So you sitting there like, dang, like if I don't produce no kids, what's this marriage for?
Hmm.
And so that period of time when we couldn't have kids, man, it just grew us closer, man, and then we found other ways to be productive and really grew as a unit, man. And I think more more empathetic with people who are going through things. And we would always tell ourselves, man, again, like, why not us? Because you want to go into the woe is me, like, man, why us, why me? But it's like, why not? Like, people got problems all the time. Like, and ain't nobody like raise their hand to say, I want this struggle, I want this disease. Like, people don't do that, but yet it happens. And so it just lets you know that I guess the randomness of life, if you will, that can be maddeningly frustrating.
How did you meet your wife?
So when I interned at Kraft, she was an intern there as well. So that's when we met. So that was back in like '01.
Oh, you was violating all type of company policies, man.
Nah, we just got cool, man. And like, but we were friends for, I guess, from '01 until we started dating in '08. Yeah, so like
Damn,
7 years.
that's a
Yeah, we was
long
like,
time. So y'all known each other like almost 20 years.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Next year will be 20 years. Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
long
Crazy.
time, dude.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So you met her in '01. I mean, was it chemistry there or you was just like, eh?
Nah, she tried to play me, man. We always joke, Like I was on my networking kick, so I was trying to meet all the black people that was interns. So she has a rendition of how I introduced myself that was very corny. I
What you
don't
say?
recall it that
Armond
well.
Mosley, beta chapter, chemical
Yeah,
engineering.
no, I wasn't beta chapter yet. I was just I was a campus pal probably. That was about all I had to give to the world. Um, and we just got we got cool and we got to know each other, man. And then we just were friends, man. But like she was older, so she was I think at that time a junior. Let's see, if I was a sophomore, she was a junior. Yeah, so I was going into I was about to be a junior that fall, and then she was about to be a senior. So yeah, so 1 year older as far as one grade above. So she had actually she was gonna graduate that December. That's right. So December of '01 is when she graduated college. So she's 2 years older than me. But she's a semester
What college did she
back.
come out?
She came out of Virginia Commonwealth University.
Okay,
So
Virginia
VCU.
Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Okay, shout out to Ben Wallace. All right, cool.
So yeah,
So
man. So she tried to play me. She's older. She's looking at me like, oh, little young whippersnapper. So she put me in that friend zone real quick, man. So I ain't even have
little
time
did
to
she know. Little
try
did
to
she
push up.
know.
Exactly. So yeah, man, we cool. And then fast forward 7 years, man. Good friendship. A lot of prayer. And just recognize, man, like there was a lot that she had, man, that I desired in a wife. It's like, man, I'm tripping. Like I'm up here looking around everywhere else. I got this person who's been in my life for 7 years that has been consistent. Like, what you smoking, bruh? Like, she's right there. So approached her, man, and then the rest was history.
The rest was history, man. So when you guys, so when you get engaged, you guys make a conscious decision, right? Not to have sex before marriage. Is that a fact?
Correct.
How does that happen, man? How does that happen in 20 whatever, anything? This ain't
Like,
1950, bro. This ain't 1930. What how did that conversation even start? You know what I mean?
well,
Cuz I couldn't
well,
imagine agreeing to that.
well, look, man, that's one of the reasons why we were together, though. That was one of the foundations of our friendship, was our faith. So we were all those years we talked about our faith and questions we had, and so that was a foundational element. I mean, look, personally, like I talked about earlier, like I wrestle with whether to take my faith seriously or to let it be a appetizer or a sidecar, if you will. And so through different, like I said, life will humble you, man. And so as I got humbled in life, man, it made me realize that I wasn't in control. And so as I came to appreciate how little control I had over things, I got back anchored to my faith, man. And so as I got back anchored to my faith, I wanted to be serious about it and do the things that I felt like God was asking of me to do. And one was around sex. I felt like that was the one vice, not the one, but like a vice that, like, as a man and as someone who have been promiscuous in the past. So like, man, like if I'm gonna be serious about God, like I can't keep having sex. Like that just feels inconsistent. Like if I'm confused about my purpose and I'm confused about what it is He wants me to do, I can't be like, God, like show me, help me understand what it is you're asking of me in life while I'm up here smashing Johns, as you will. And
Why
so
sex though? Why that particular?
sin or vice,
Yeah.
man, because I feel like it was such a powerful one for me, and I think for a lot of men because it's such a distraction, man. Like once you take that out the picture, it's like, all right, well, you know what? I don't really need to go to the club no more because I ain't trying to meet nobody. Like I'm not trying to go to the club because I ain't trying to dance up on nobody. If I dance up on someone, then I'm gonna get aroused, and then I'm gonna want to have sex. So like that kind of drops that out the picture. It's like the pursuit of women who you ain't really feeling, but you just want to pursue to see if you can hit. Like that kind of, you're like, I'm putting calling her back. Like I'm not attracted to her, I'm not interested. And so like sex as a thing was driving so much activity and mental capacity that I couldn't hear from God clearly. I couldn't focus on being serious about my faith walk and also be pursuing that. It's like I had to pursue one or the other. And I felt like a lot of my mental focus, whether it was conscious or subconscious or even unconscious, was focused on the pursuit of sex. You know, and again, it wasn't like this aggressive thing, but it was a subtle thing that was always there.
Now this this was something public, not like you was announcing it, but your friends knew about this. I mean, what type of support did you receive, or did you get any pushback from friends, or like what was the response like when your friends and I guess people whose opinions you value when they found out that you was actually going through with
Are you serious, bro? No more perving? I mean, I would say, generally speaking, man, it was positive, you know, and I think I was fortunate to have the majority of my friends were, you know, came from Christian homes, man. And again, like none of us are perfect, you know, and I think everybody has their own journey. So people weren't like confused as to why. It was just like, man, like that's crazy. But it wasn't like,
this?
why would you do that? It was like, man, like that's wow, you know, and people were supportive, man. And again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, like I've always been somebody who has been, you know, confident in who I am, and so I think people respected that aspect of it, knowing that, like, all right, well, it's not that we're gonna like talk them out of it, and you know, just try to be supportive. And I think at different points in time, other people they came to that same conclusion for themselves, and some people, you know, just continue to support. So it changed the dynamics of conversations I had with people, though. Like, because again, if I'm not pursuing that, so now, you know, I call up Josh. I'm like, yo, what's good, man? He's like, yo, man, I'm about to go get on this. Like, we not that conversation ain't as fun no more because I don't have a story to tell you about my escapades, you know. And so that was an adjustment. It was awkward at times because if you have friends who are still doing that stuff and then you're not, it's like, all right, well, how do we? How does our friendship evolve, right? Like, what do we do to connect that doesn't put me, in a situation I'm uncomfortable with, but at the same time doesn't make them feel like they're being judged. And so that was a thing that wasn't ever consciously discussed, but I think we all kind of wrestled to figure what that is, figure that out.
So when you are doing something like that, now is this something that you decided to do with you and your now wife, or is this a decision that you made well before you got married?
Yeah, the decision I made before I got married, it was a
Mhm.
decision that, you know, probably the first time I did it was I was in a relationship with someone else. And it was kind of like an awakening a little bit that I had in that relationship. And we were sexually active. So it was kind of like, oh, I'll do it for 30 days. Then at the end of 30 days, it was like, I think I'm done for good. It's
I
like,
just remember
yeah.
being like, I hope I don't get this girl pregnant. That's when I was like, oh man, if I have a kid by her, I'm gonna be pissed. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying?
That, there are
I
those
just remember
situations
thinking,
too.
but it didn't stop me. But luckily, you know, my God is a good God, so he he looked out for me.
That
You
he
feel
is, my
me?
friend.
He looked out. So, um, y'all get married in '08, or is it
Oh
20?
nine, oh
Oh
nine.
nine, oh nine. You get
Yeah,
married. Now, but before that, at what point do you get your MBA, right?
yeah,
Was that
yeah.
okay? So you get your MBA now. Why get an MBA?
So back chemical engineer and knew that I wanted to get into business, man. And I was like, look, it's going to be hard to get into a business function with an engineering background. So, plus I felt like there was some training in business that I would probably would benefit from. So, I started doing MBA part time at Temple. So while working, did that, and pretty much as I'm getting it, I got a new job in more of a procurement function, and stayed on the business side of things from there on. So I did engineering really for like 2 years, 2.5 years, and then everything else has been more business focused.
So you leverage the gig to help you get the MBA. And would you say that that MBA, would you say it helped your earning power?
It's hard to say, man. I mean, I like to believe it has, but not explicitly. Like I feel like by the time I got mine in 2010, they're such a commodity. Like it's basically you have to get it from a top 10, or else I feel like it's table stakes. So it may have, like, I haven't explicitly been in a conversation or heard anyone give me a job or give me a promotion because of my MBA. But I'm sure having it didn't hurt, if that makes sense.
How would you compare your network from Temple to like your network at Howard?
Man, see, that's one of the downsides of going part time. Like I got like probably 2 classmates I still can reach out to and keep in contact with, because you go to work, you go to school, everybody's doing it in the classroom, but if ain't no projects, cats going back home. So like to their families. So anybody, people aren't focused on trying to build out strong networks and things like that. So not at all. So that's why, like, when people talk to me about MBA programs, like, trying to decide what to do, I'm a big fan of going full time if you value the network that you might build. If you're just going to like add skills, then I think you can get that in a number of different ways.
So 75 grand a year, worth it, you think, to go to a top 10 MBA school? If you was like, yo, I can go to Duke, NYU, Stanford, it's worth dropping that 75K a year.
I think it's a good question. I think it depends on the person, man. Like you gotta you gotta be really focused, and you gotta know how you're gonna flip that 150. Like you can't go there and not have clarity on, like, at least part of some options after you get done, right? Because to spend that kind of money and then come back and try to figure out what you're gonna do, I feel like you could have saved the money. But if you're like, look, I want to go into tech, I want to go into financial services, I want to go into consulting, I want to start my own business. Like, okay, well, what business? If you've got clarity around those things, then I think it can be really worth it, because that network can get you into consulting, into financial services, into tech. It also can help you start your own business.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're
now,
going just
it's so many ways you can brand yourself, because
yeah,
technology has made the world so much smaller that you can get started in your career. Shit, when you're 17, you can still be in tech in some type of way and reaching out to people and doing things. So yeah, I definitely feel that, man. Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. So when did you drop your first book? The
2011.
2011, man. 2011. Yep. So
yep.
You dropped this joint, you and your wife, and y'all were engaged for how long? It wasn't a long engagement, right?
Nah, it was 6 months.
Brother was like, I got it.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Like, yo, you feel me? You know what I mean?
Look, it was only 6 months for logistics purposes. Like, we could have done it in 2 months, we would have been married,
Yeah. So you get married, it's not like you were, y'all knew each other quite well. So it wasn't like you rushed and got married. But from engagement to getting married, you guys celibate, right? You celibate, and then from 2009 to 2014, no kids. Now, right. I guess 2013 got pregnant, but for an extended period, no offspring. In the middle of that, you drop a book My book would be like pissed off, mad. You know what I'm saying? You write a book, Rededication. I mean, was that like a like therapeutic for you to write that book? Was it what
Well,
made
it's
you
funny.
write
Yeah.
something like that, man?
So I started the book before we got married. So like I was kind of like the book started when I decided to be celibate, and I'm like looking for content to consume to help me in my journey. I didn't feel like there was anything out there from a male perspective, or especially like from a black male perspective. So I was like, man, like, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. How am I going to figure this thing out? And there's no voice out there from someone who looks like me. And so that's why I just started chronicling and journaling with my own experience. So once I got my MBA in 2010, I'm like, all right, I'm done with school. I got a bunch of free time. Let's finish this book. And so from, May 2010 through, I guess, June 2011 is when I finished the book, and released it that summer. And, so it was cathartic, man, because I was able to like just kind of share my own journey and put it on paper and really trying to help people out. I wrote it. It's kind of like I wrote the book to myself, kind of going back in time. So like, what's the book that I would have wanted if I would, when I was going through that journey? So I tried to write it, just being very transparent about my own journey and not. I felt like a lot of the content that was out there was always like, people who grew up in the church and were always pious, and never made any mistakes. And so it's like, I've never kissed anyone. I never have, and I never did, and that's my life. You're like, dang, man. Well, all right. Well, I'm screwed from day one. Like I've been kissed somebody a long time ago, so I don't have any hope. And I kind of started the book from like in the throes of sex to like explain like this book is not about somebody who doesn't understand the struggle. This book is not about someone who has never done wrong. This book is about someone who's just trying to find clarity in what they feel God is calling them to. So finished writing that, man, and it was, and got that kind of. I felt like God had called me to write it too. There's a little bit of an accountability mechanism as well. It's like, all right, well, I'm gonna call you to this path, and I'm gonna have you journal it as well. So you don't have the luxury of kind of making a mistake because you need to be able to tell other people about that journey. And so yeah.
So, in a nutshell, man, what is that book about? It says repentance and restoration. Is it like asking for forgiveness?
Yeah, man, it's just like, just the journey of like, being sexually active and then kind of coming to a place of asking God for forgiveness. And then that walk to from once you ask for forgiveness and kind of repent and say, look, I'm gonna turn away from this thing, is like now you're being restored. So like how do you become a new person? If there's Armand who's sexually active that decides to repent and turn away from that sin, then how do I become in that new reality? Because that's very different. Again, like it's not like everything that you were doing, everybody around you when you were doing that go away when you decide to stop. And so that restoration part is how do you get back to a place of wholeness after turning away from something that had been such a big part of your life.
So what what do you do when you giving up sex? Like what is the
Write
substitute
books.
for that? What is, I mean, because a lot of times, I mean, you could be minding your business. You could be minding your business at work, you know what I mean? And replying, next thing you know, you think about a big booty. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not even
Well,
trying to
yeah,
do that. Like what are things that you're doing? If
yeah,
somebody's watching this and maybe they have a struggle, you know what I
yeah.
mean, or similar thoughts.
Well, I mean, one, like, look, big booties ain't going nowhere, my brother. So, like, look, that's part of the reality. Like, look, how do you transition? How do you, kind of make a pivot, knowing that all those stimuli are still out there? And so it's really about like, all right, well, it's one thing to see a big booty. It's another thing to sit there, look at it, salivate, and then start to, fantasize. And so you got to start to really try to control. But, like I said, it's a lot of it's like trying to really control what you consume. So whether it be what you watch on TV, what music you listen to, like those things they play into your subconscious, man. So like you're not explicitly thinking about sex, but because you're listening to a song about somebody smashing, then your brain is kind of switched on to that. So you're more sensitive to it. So really kind of changing all of that and just trying to find more productive uses of your time, man. And that was kind of, again, like literally, that is what I was writing the book a lot of that time. But then also I, got more active in my church, man. And just tried to, like, all right, God, like I'm gonna let you use me. I'm gonna turn away from that. So like I'm yours. Like do what it is you want with me. And so I started a step ministry with young boys in my old church. I started speaking on celibacy and panels and things like that. So it was God was opening doors for me to find other things to do, man. And for that was probably the first time in my life where I felt like I had purpose. Where it's like, man, like I feel like if I die today, I'm dying doing the things that God has put me here to do.
Man, that's interesting, man. That's interesting to put that out there. So, and then you come out with when did you come out with the second book?
That was 2013.
That's 2013. So, 5 things every teen needs to know about sex. So, in your estimation, what do you think? What do you think about as a person who's authored books like this about how sex is portrayed or so much in your face in media, how women are objectified in music? You got 2 daughters, you got a son, you're a
Yeah.
Christian, you wrote these books. I mean, I would imagine you view it through a different lens than most. What do you feel like when you see these things?
Yeah, man. Look, it's the world we live in, man. And I think that's kind of why I I wrote this. Sorry, can you hear this background noise?
A little bit, but it's not that.
Uh,
It's
all
not no
right,
big
sorry.
deal.
Yeah, the kids, it's bedtime, so they're next door getting ready. So if you hear some wilding and some screaming, man, I apologize.
That's
But
all
anyway,
good.
but yeah, man, it was like, it's the world we live in, and so that's why I wrote the second book, because I think the church has done, this is my estimation, I think the church has done Christians a disservice in that we don't talk about it honestly. Like, hey, like you say, like, oh, don't have sex, and that's it. Like the question you asked, like, how ask them, but like somebody should be asking ministers, like, all right, so if I don't have sex, what should I be doing? Like, how can I spend my time? What do I do if all my friends at school having sex? Um, and we also don't talk about the struggles of like really like why. And I think the reality is, man, it ain't easy, and it's not. It's and as society has evolved, what's interesting is people get married older and older. And so that to me is just a whole nother dynamic of this battle where it's like, it's easy to tell a 21-year-old, like, wait until you get married. How you tell a 35-year-old that? That's a different, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, just keep waiting. Like, that's not an easy message, man, for somebody to have to swallow. So I think, it's a constant conversation. It's an evolving conversation. But I think the fact that it's so front of mind doesn't help, because most of what's front of mind, or most of what's pushed at us from TV and music and everything, is unproductive uses of sex. Is not healthy. And so it either creates women that, in some instances don't value themselves, or value themselves for the wrong reasons, or it creates men who objectify women and don't appreciate them for all they are, and really look at the physical more than anything else. And so, it's I'm not gonna say it's disappointing, but I understand why why it's the way it is, because sex is a powerful thing, man.
Would you say that sex? Um, would you say the world is a better place if people wait to get married to have sex?
It's a loaded question, because I don't think the act of waiting until you're married to have sex in and of itself is what would make the world a better place. I think it's the productive uses of time in the absence of that, and what is it that's driving people not to have sex? Because just not having sex you could just be building up contempt for something, and it could actually be very destructive. But I think if people were willing to not objectify one another and view people, for the value that they bring, maybe people get married earlier. Maybe there's more healthy marriages, because again, one of the things about, sex is like, look, you know, you get married, like, oh man, like, so one of the fears always is like, well, I got to test the car before I drive it. It's like, the only reason why we believe that is because we've tested a number of cars. So we know we like SUV, or, stick shift, or low rider, this, like, we know we like those things because we've already tasted it. But
You
in
don't
a,
you don't buy into that philosophy at all.
well, I don't believe that's a reason to do it, but I understand why people think that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, like, if I know what I like, then of course I want to know if this person I'm about to spend the rest of my life with is going to give it to me the way I like it. But the flawed perspective in that is that I know what I like before I got with them in the first place. Like, just imagine a world where your wife, that's the first, she's the first woman you've been with, and you're the first man she's been with. There's nothing to compare it to. you guys get to create your own experience of what is great sex versus y'all both bringing in your own experiences. Now your wife and the wife and the husband are trying to compete with people who aren't even in the bedroom anymore and trying to like, well, I'm trying to do this better than that dude that you met when you was over there 5 years ago and vice versa. So I think that's some of the dynamics and challenges that come with it.
Got 2 books. We got 2 books. We got an MBA. Career is doing well, man. You still out on the East Coast, and is Pennsylvania considered the East Coast? That's like a Midwest/East Coast state. I don't know what to consider that, but Philly is considered the East, though.
Yeah. It's like the Philadelphia metro area. Yes, Pittsburgh is more like Midwest. You know.
Yeah. So you out there, man. You doing your thing. So up comes Anaya and Aaliyah. What does that feel like?
Man, I mean, it's again, you talk about like when I crossed,
and you get twins. You get twins.
Yeah.
It was God said, if you're gonna be a monkey, be a gorilla, man. If you
man, like,
say you want
do it the right way.
So you get twins, man.
You know, like I said, elation when I crossed, man. Elation when we had the kids, man, and you know, it was just a magical moment, man. You know, because again, back to similarly, but like something you've been waiting for so long, and you just felt like it was really out of your control. And the other thing too is like, you know, I actually think for us, man, having twins was a super blessing because it allowed us to parent and kind of go through that experience at the same time. I don't know if you recall this, but back when I think last time I was in Chicago, we hung out and me, you, and Kenny were talking. I was just like, look, you know, I think for us, because we had 2, like everybody had to change diapers. Like everybody had to have a role to play because it's man on man defense. And I feel like that actually, ironically, while it was hard, I think it made us closer. Whereas if we'd have had 1, I don't know what that would have been like. Like I think it would have been a completely different dynamic in the household. But I think for us, that really helped us.
Oh yeah, that's true. You're right. You couldn't. Wasn't no gender roles going down when you got 2 kids. It's like all men on deck.
That's right. Yeah.
On deck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where you think you going? Like, yo, you watch her, I'll watch her. Like, yo, this is crazy, but it was good though.
Man, so you have the twins, man, and you have your son, you have AJ, and it's like not necessarily saying your faith was restored, but it was like, man, you know, it was for lack of better words, like renewed. It was just like, man, you know, this is what I've been preaching the whole time, and you just had to be patient, man. You know, How hard is it to not compare yourself to people, man? You know, when you got homies out there, boys is just as smart, wife just as good looking, popping out kids quick, you know, like,
yeah.
How hard was it for you to, like, you know, did you find yourself like staying off social media at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was probably harder on Nneka than me, but yeah, it's like I said, man, it's tough. And again, but I think you got to keep it in perspective, man. That's why like social media is a good thing, but it can be really bad, and people got to know when they got to take breaks from it, man. Because again, everybody knows like you see the best of everybody's life on social media, right? And so, you know, if you're somebody who's single and waiting to be in a relationship, but then everybody's post is like, oh, vacation bay, you know, it's like this. Your whole feed is like people celebrating Valentine's Day. That can put you into a mild depression, man. You know, people popping out kids left and right. And again, you got to be careful not to start judging, because on that instance, you start looking at people who having kids who aren't married. You're like, oh man, like how do you get to have a kid? They ain't even trying to have one. Like you said, he said publicly that he wasn't trying to have a kid.
They're not even together.
Yeah,
he ain't got no job.
You're like, what's this, man? Like, yo, we got jobs, we got a house, like we can take care of them.
Yeah, right. And did you buy the crib before you had the kids?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. How you just try to set stuff up right. Like, you know, you got the bedrooms ready, you got you got the money in the bank account, you doing everything. You know, you following all the best practices, man. So did that test your marriage at all? Like, was it ever like, you know, conflict?
Man. No, I didn't, man. Like, again, I credit that to the years of friendship. Like again, like we just with that history, I think this really helped us to be looking out for one another and just be in it together, man. And again, it was if anything, it grew us closer because you feel like not me
Mm-hmm.
against the world, but we all we got. Like ain't nobody can help us with this. Like
Yeah.
your parents can't do nothing. Like your friends can't. Everybody just kind of spectators, right? They can't actively do something to help you. So just try to be there for one another.
Wow, man. So right now, man, you are head of foundation services and operations for the Vanguard Group, man. That's a long ass title.
It is, right?
A lot of syllables, man. Does that come with a corner office?
It's not a corner office; it's a center office.
Got a center office, man. Um, that's a big title, though. Sounds like a lot of responsibility. Um, and in your company, in terms of demographics, man, how many percentage wise, how many black people would you say are in like management position?
Management, like all levels of management.
Yeah,
Oh man, it's low. It's not a lot. I
double
mean,
digit, 10%, 5%.
I'm gonna go with five, probably five. Let's make like 5 to 7.
5 to 7. So briefly talk about what your role is.
Yeah, man. So basically, you think about a financial services firm. So you got people who, let's say, if you go on Vanguard.com right now and you print out a form to change your address, and then you mail it in. So part of my team is the mailroom that will receive that paper and then scan it into the system. Part of my organization are the people who would pull that request up in our software and then go into your account and change your address. And let's say something happened that's wrong with that, and then you want to call 1-800 Vanguard. The other part of my organization is the ones who pick up the phone and maybe answer your question and talk you through whatever the question you have. So I have like a mail room, processing center, and a phone center for our retail clients.
And how many people are you managing?
It's fluctuate between like 700-800.
So you manage about 700-800 people. How many clients would you say that you touch?
My team specifically, it's hard to say, but it's hard to say because you don't, I'd have to know like how many. Some clients call a lot, some send in a lot of paperwork. But if I had to guess, I mean, there's like 7, 8, I think, million retail clients. So I'm not touching all of those, but a good portion of them.
Wow. What does it feel like to have such a, when you walk into Vanguard and you know you walking past, hey, what's up? What's good? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You like kind of like how Eddie Murphy was in Boomerang almost. Like you the guy, you that guy, man. And for a lot of people in that company, you represent like hope. Like, man, look at that black
Yeah,
dude right there. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I see myself in that guy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He's got a heavy title. You know what I mean? What does that responsibility feel like?
I mean, I'm gonna take the last part first, but man, that like I wear that part with a sense of pride, man, and humility. Like as a black man in corporate America, like I feel like that's my responsibility, right? Is to be that example, to be a light for those people, to be some hope for them. Uh-oh, I'm breaking out there. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, to be a light for those folks, man, and to be accessible, man. So I try to, meet with the young cats, mentor, support, help, hire, whatever I can do to help them out, man. And I, like I said, that's kind of like my paying it forward, man, for all the people who helped me out and for all that Howard has given me. Again, I don't think there's one person who graduated from an HBCU that doesn't feel an obligation to help the next generation of Black leaders be successful. Um, then the other side, I think it's surreal, man. Like, I don't think I've always had high ambitions in my career, man, but I don't think I thought I would have had this role with this much responsibility at this time. I don't know what I thought I would have. Like, this feels right if I like really think about it, but I don't think I could have drawn it out on paper. But it's been a real blessing, man, because I got a role about 4 years ago. I guess almost 5 years ago now, being a chief of staff for one of our senior leaders. And that was really like the flashpoint. Like in that role, just helping out that senior leadership team every day, doing a really good job and kind of getting on the radar. And after that, man, the rest has been history.
Hmm. So would you say that you ever heard that phrase called imposter syndrome?
Hmm.
Did that ever did you ever have those feelings or no?
I would say probably, not sustained, but there's been moments, like when I got a new role, when I got a promotion, I felt like either I didn't belong there or I didn't deserve to be there. And I'm trying to like, as opposed to just really just leaning into the fact that, no, like, yeah, I'm good enough. Again, like I said, as I've gotten increasing levels of responsibility, you have those moments where you feel like, again, like, do I deserve this? Am I like, can I do this and stuff like that? But, I try to just be mindful of, yeah, you do, man. Like you worked hard, like you've done things the right way. And like you put, I got a mentor that tells me all the time, like they put on, the whole, like they put on their britches the same way I do, and he always tells me like, there's a lot of people that's smarter than me, but ain't nobody going to outwork me. And, and, uh, and that kind of is something that's really resonated with me throughout my career because it's like, yeah, like same thing, you go to Howard, there's gonna be a lot of smart cats. Like you're going to be intimidated to the point where you're just not going to handle business, or you're going to get over it and just be and do you. And same thing at corporate America. Like, yeah, like, no, that dude, yeah, he's legit. And I think as you go in increasing levels of responsibility, you meet more and more legit people. Like when you're more junior, you can look around and be like, yeah, that's a clown, that's a clown, that's a clown. So you can feel kind of puffed up. But when you get more senior, you're like, oh no, these people, they the real deal. Like so, the number of clowns are fewer and fewer, and so you start to recognize like, all right, like I got a peer that's really good, and I remember I was talking to my boss one time, like, yo, like like I'm not like so and so, like that's not how I run my organization, and like if that's what you want, I feel like I'm gonna disappoint. And he was like, nah, like I want you to be you. Like you could. I brought you on the team because of X, Y, and Z. Like if you start doing what he does, then actually that would be failure on your part. And so it was kind of a good like shock to the system for me a few years ago to recognize that who I am and what I bring to the table is valuable just the way it is.
Hmm. So um like you've been able to navigate the corporate ladder, man. I mean, for me, I struggled when I got in corporate America. I just didn't feel comfortable, at all. Like what advice would you give to, like somebody just who wants to, like a black person, period, or even a minority that wants to, get with a great company, and they want their voice to be heard, not in a way that comes off of overly aggressive, but in a way, they want their talents to be seen, and they want to be valued in that space.
But man, one of the names of the game is networking. Like you got to get out there. And, I feel like it sounds cliche and you hear it so often, but a number of Black people in corporate America, like we take pride, we're very prideful, and so we want our work to speak for itself, and it will to some degree, but you got to be your own best marketer as well. And I think one of the main things you got to do is you got to build up a coalition, build up a network of folks, Black and white, that can help you navigate. Like that's what's been most helpful to me. Like my network is expansive and it's racially agnostic. So I got, and I think that's something that is critically important and absolutely has contributed to my success. Like if I only knew Black people at work, I wouldn't be where I am. Or if Black people were the only people who knew what I could do, it wouldn't be enough. Because the people in the driver's seats of decisions, more times than not, are white. And so you've got to get on their radar. And so again, you just got to network. And so what I always do is when I come into an organization, I start off by working and meeting the Black folks. And then I ask the Black folks to help me meet white folks. And you just keep building it out. And eventually you have a nice diverse network. But again, check your network. If your network isn't diverse, you're gonna run into some trouble at some point.
Man. So a lot of times, man, you know, when you are first starting off or when you have a goal, when you first starting that goal, you like, man, if I just get to this point, I'll be happy with that. You know what I'm saying? And then you hit that goal, and then eh, pressure comes, because it's one thing to put pressure on yourself to get to a certain thing, but it's a whole nother situation. Like once you're given that responsibility to maintain the brand that you've created for
Hmm.
yourself and to consistently show up and perform, that could come up in a way of, man, I wish I had kids. Now you got kids. Now you got to take care of 3 people. You know what I'm saying? I want to get married. Okay, now you got to be faithful to your wife. You know what I'm saying? I bought this big old house. Now I got to pay the bill. So now you put yourself in a position where you got to, live up to what, you wanted, man. How do you deal with that pressure? Whether it be, okay, I wrote these books and I'm public with, my faith and my walk in Christianity. I am, how do I got this big position. How do you deal with the pressure of those things? Because a lot of what you do in your role at Vanguard, like it or not, you know, it's going to dictate if another black person gets a similar role,
Hmm.
in that position. A lot of how somebody might view Christianity, they're going to look at you as, well, he ain't a real, he wrote this book and then I saw him do this one thing wrong. So
Yeah.
now I hate all Christians. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? How do you deal with that? Or is that a thought that even enters your mind?
I mean, it definitely enters your mind, man. But you can't live your life like that, man. You can't be scared. It's like, look, man, you gotta do what you feel is right. You gotta trust God, man, and move forward. Because otherwise, you start second guessing yourself. Like you'll never get anything accomplished. I think about, at work, I definitely think about it. But like, again, it gets back to like, look, man, I gotta trust that. Hey, I'm good enough. I'm gonna get busy. And if I don't do if because of what I do, another black person doesn't get this seat, then I guess I gotta live with that, man. But that's and that won't be a function of something I've intentionally done. But I don't carry that pressure negatively. Like it doesn't cause me to be gun shy to move forward.
What was it like to interact with the CEO, man? Like not just a shake, a hand, like a handshake, but to really spend time and with the CEO of a company, billion-dollar company like Vanguard, global company, and not only interact with him, but he's really getting your opinion on things and asking you things. And what was that like to come from, from Huntsville? Not to shade Huntsville like it's just nothing, but it just sounds funny. But come from Huntsville to Drew Hall to
Yeah.
crossing and now you the CEO is like Armond. You know what I'm saying? He's not calling you, employee 678-9. He's calling you Armond. Hey, I need your thoughts on this, man. What is that like?
Man, look, our CEO, man, he's really cool, man. Really, really like really just personable guy. So it's nerve wracking because he's intense, but it's cool because he's genuinely inquisitive. So like, but I don't think there's ever been an interaction I've had with him where I haven't been nervous. It's like, but I mean, you just try to answer the question and try to keep you poised, man. I mean, because there's still things I want to achieve in my career, so I know that I say the wrong thing,
Yeah.
then it can have an impact. But again, it goes back to like, but I still need to say something and just trust that I'm gonna say the right thing. So, but yeah, I mean, he's accessible to some degree. So the other thing is like I feel good about like it's not like you only get one time to talk to him,
Yeah.
So he's around. So it's like because if you knew it's gonna be like your only time, then you're gonna clam up. You're like, oh man, I got one time to do this and it's over. But I've had a few interactions with him and had a chance to you know kind of give him a chance to see who I am and how I operate. So it's been good.
Advice, man. What advice do you have for somebody that's coming in from smaller city, smaller market city, coming into Howard, 18 years old?
Yep.
wants to, kick it, wants to be a leader, wants to achieve academically, wants to get a great career, man, what advice do you have for that person?
Man, look, come in, keep your eye on the prize. Don't lose focus, but take advantage of everything Howard has to give, man. Like, one of the things I feel like I didn't do enough of that I would go back and do is, when the School of Business would have all those companies coming in. For some reason, as an engineering student, I didn't think about going to those sessions. Like, I'm like, I don't know why. Like I
Yeah.
should, you should be going to everything because you can just get exposure, just learning. And with exposure comes options, man. So it's like, look, Howard's a great institution, man. But you gotta stay focused to seize those opportunities. Don't get so caught up in the party life or the fun life because you can do that anywhere. But as you know, Josh, like it's really what the culture and the fabric that is woven at Howard that really creates the special sauce, if you will. So it's like if you can get the fun part, get involved in the different organizations, and take advantage of all the corporations that are coming on campus to recruit, that's a trifecta, man. You can't lose.
So what do you got going on right now, man, in this coronavirus environment, man? What are some things that you're working on, and how has your life changed?
Man, just balancing work and kids and all that stuff. But it's been it's been it's been an adjustment, but we're making do. You know what I mean? You got the kids at home, so you're trying to balance that while working. But it's been good, man. It's I was telling someone the other day, I think we'll look out 5 years from now, and you know, both the kids and us will probably reflect on this period of time as something special. Right now, it's intense. Right now, it's stressful. But I think like what generation of people have had both parents at home with the kids all day, every day for 4 or 5 months straight? Like that's not somebody had to go to work.
Yeah.
Whereas like we're the first generation where everybody can work in the house and the kids can stay home. And so it's like that's just who knows what psychological benefit that will have on our children. We're all worried about the educational impact, but like what about the potential benefits of them just being more connected to the family? So again, you can't put a finger on that, but I believe that's going to be something that'll be special about this time.
Absolutely. What about legacy, man? I mean, 50, 75, 80 years, man. What are we saying about Armond Mosley?
Man, I got a few more books I want to write, man. So hopefully there's some more content out there that people don't have to worry about what somebody says, but they actually can read it and learn about me, learn about my views on things. But ultimately, man, I hope it's like, look, he helped people, man. He was a good dude. He was focused on doing the right things and trying to make the world a better place, in his sphere of influence. So if you ask coworkers, hopefully they say like, hey, he was a great boss, great leader. You ask family, like, hey, he was a great husband, great dad. You ask people at church, hey, he was a great leader, great minister. You ask friends, say he was a really good friend. So hopefully that's somebody who has had a positive impact on everyone that I interact with.
Hey, man, you ready for some Jeopardy?
Yeah, man. I got to run to the grocery store in a second too. So let's do it.
All right. So first Jeopardy question, man. What year was Howard founded?
1867.
What
So I was
is
supposed to say what year is. I was supposed to say what is, right?
no. Well, in
Okay.
real Jeopardy, yeah. I
Yeah.
guess
All
we
right.
should say trivia then.
All right.
What's the Howard motto?
Ooh. Leadership for America and the global community.
No, that's
No.
just what Swigert used to always say. No, it's truth and service.
Okay. All right. All right.
What body of water is located is closest to Howard? What's the name of it?
I don't remember.
The reservoir. How do you spell Crampton?
Cramton.
Oh, you got it right. There you go. How many of the Divine Nine organizations were founded at Howard?
Let's say I feel like 5.
5.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence. Reared against the eastern sky.
Something Hilltop High.
Proudly there on Hilltop High.
Yeah.
What is the zip code of Howard?
Ooh. 20059.
Good one, man. That's 2. Can you get one more, man? Who is the president of Howard?
Wayne Frederick.
Good, man. Dr. Wayne Frederick to you. All right.
True.
All right. Last is rapid fire, man. You just give me a one-word answer or whatever comes to your mind first.
Right.
U Street or Adams Morgan?
U Street.
Is homecoming better as a student or as an alum?
Alum.
Best Howard moment?
Ooh. Jay-Z on the yard.
You got to start one, bench one, or cut one. Freshman orientation, homecoming, graduation.
So what am I answering?
So you got to start one, you got to bench one, and you got to cut one. Homecoming or freshman orientation, so that first 2 weeks, or graduation.
I'm cutting graduation.
Yeah, graduation was the worst.
Yeah, I'm benching orientation, and I'm starting homecoming.
Okay. Howard men don't cheat.
Next question.
You supposed to say fact. When did you find your voice?
Personally? I would say probably when I, right around the time I released the book on Rededication.
When I dropped my first book, Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan.
Who you know or what you know?
Ooh, who you know?
Ho Chi or China Wonder?
Ho Chi.
The biggest L you ever took?
Beta Group.
Beta Group, not Beta Chapter. All right.
Right. Correct. Real estate.
Hardest part of being a boss?
Trying to keep everybody happy.
And the last question, quad or annex?
Annex.
True, AC. Everybody like AC. Hey, man, you've been a great guest, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Man, thanks for having me, man. It was good. It's good chatting with you, brother.
Thank you for joining the HU Movemaker podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the Howard legacy at the highest levels. To hear more interviews or purchase merchandise, please visit www.humovemakers.com.